I'm Brian.
And I'm Dante.
And I'm J-Dub.
And one of us just launched our OnlyFans, but you can guess who in the comments below. Gentlemen, we're talking Deadpool and Wolverine. For those of you who are just clicking on this, thank you so much for clicking on the last podcast, our highest viewed podcast to date. So we're going to keep this gravy train rolling. Thank you guys so much for rejoining. We left last shows off with Deadpool Wolverine. Some spoilers, but this podcast is gloves off. We're going to be talking about the movie. I think everybody here most likely wants to see it again. Jay, you saw it this weekend. But before we dive into the Deadpool stuff, what do you guys got going on in your world? Let's start with Dante.
Use my words here. Not too exciting. Trying to pitch a couple more venues on trivia, hitting mics. Got a couple shows coming up that I'm excited about. That'll be pretty dope. Debating seeing Deadpool 3 again this weekend. I don't know. Might be crazy.
J-Dub, dude, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh, man. Saw Deadpool this weekend. Played a ton of games. Driving out of town right now. But can't wait to get into the discussions, man.
Dude, I'm very curious as to your thoughts because I feel like there's been this concept of superhero movie fatigue, which I've pushed back against that idea. I think we've just been in this era of bad movies, or at least movies that didn't really kind of hit the highs that I always kind of hoped that they could. Dante, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, movies overall have been lower in quality, but for sure we've just been dicked with superhero stories the last decade. Like, there's so much more in the last 10, 15 years compared to, I don't know, 1980 to 2000, right?
Well, this truly kicked off, like, if you think about it, from with Marvel, specifically with Blade. Because, and that was, I think, something that was such a deep cut and something I was so excited to see that Blade was in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. It makes me go, oh, I'm excited now more for the video game and for then hopefully we see, more Blade, that movie kind of actually come into fruition, because that in and of itself, I was like, yes, this is great. And that's what started this whole, I think, success of kind of the comic book movies that we've seen, because you're right. Like, we do have a high saturation of
brought
them.
it back.
They did. What do you think about that, Jay?
Yeah. I agree. There was always this connotation or this saying that the reason why, I guess, comic video games suck is because they would rush them out for the movie. And a lot of times that was true. But I think if you have a great movie, it doesn't necessarily have to mean you have a bad game. And I think Insomniac, I think they've kind of proven that. But I do think that Marvel they've, I don't know, it just depends. These guys, they know how to make such a great movie, but I also feel like as gamers and as comic movie buffs, I do feel like once they make a certain movie and it's just so good, it's kind of hard to light that fire again. So each successive movie, it's harder and harder to beat, and then now you're just competing with yourself. I think some of that is there.
I mean, the more I think about it, I think Blade was a super kick-ass movie. I loved all three of them, but I don't think it was the thumbs up, we're sitting on a gold mine of characters here. Whereas like Iron Man in 2008, I think really showed like, okay, we can get A-list actors to do this. We can write a tight, concise origin story that, explains this character that has 1,000 comics about them in an hour and a half to a new audience. Blade was R, that definitely hurt it. Whereas, the new Marvel Cinematic Universe is definitely more family friendly. I don't know. I think Blade was definitely a staple. It showed potential, but I think Iron Man was really the
100%.
The kindling that kind of kickstarted the whole.
During
Let's explore way more characters.
During the Blade time frame, though, you end up having this. This is back when you hear a lot of 3 movies and a reboot. So like
Mhm.
nobody was really thinking like that there could be anything more than 3 stories that you would tell across 3 different movies before you either put the franchise to the side for a little bit and then bring it back. And you can see this clearly throughout Hollywood for the most part. Like if there
The
was ever a
Batman film,
franchise,
right?
Batman, Back to the Future, like there was always like movie 1, movie 2, movie 3. All right, thanks guys, that was it. That's and so Blade obviously had the 3 movies, and that was kind of its time for that period. But I agree 100%. There was Iron Man that was the official true kickoff because they tried it a couple of different times. Obviously, they brought in the Hulk movie. They switched the actor, and but it's
Oh, is it Eric Bana in the first one?
Yeah, and the what's his name? Like Edward Norton. Edward Norton.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they made 2 Hulk movies.
Yeah.
The first
you're
Hulk
right,
movie
they
was
did.
terrible in 2004.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that first one.
The
for
CGI looked like Psychonauts. It was not good.
That's the thing we were talking about, like even just a little bit with the Blade, Blood God,
The
like
first CGI was
at
terrible.
the time I was like, this is cool, and then
Yeah,
you
the
watch
second
it
movie
now and you're like,
did have a
whoa.
really fun the whole fight scene in front of the floodlights, how
Mhm.
that was choreographed. That was actually a really fun, well done scene. I thought that kind of hid the flaws of the CGI
Yeah.
with
So
the
what did
aggressive lighting.
with Blade being kind of that prodigy of this entire MCU, even though not directly, it was still a nice homage to see him on the big screen in the MCU with interacting with these other characters. How did you feel with his portrayal and after seeing this character after it's been so long?
Oh my God, man! I'll tell you, for me, it was emotional. I mean, not to be, it was like, oh my, you got to realize, right? I didn't know.
Mhm.
I knew that there were going to be some characters and stuff in there based on what we talked about. I didn't know, and seeing that, it's like, holy shit! Like seeing these characters, it's like it's been so long. It Trust me, the movie, it needed it. It kind of, I don't know. I'm trying to get my words together with it. It was some special, and he kind of made a reference. Was like, well, I'm the only only Blade. There's no more. There's no more versions of me or whatever. And then Ryan Reynolds, he looked at the screen at the same time.
Yeah.
And we all
Wink
just
to the
started like,
camera.
everybody in the movie. Yeah, everybody in the movie started laughing and everything. It's just, they did it so well, man. And I tell you, I give it like a 3 extra points in scoring it just for that.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have to, but they did it, and it was classy. It wasn't, they could have did it wrong in so many ways, but they did it in a way. It wasn't to insult your intelligence. I'm gonna be honest. If they would have chose Marshawn Ali or whatever, if they would have replaced him in there, it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, it wouldn't have had the same impact.
It wouldn't have hit. It wouldn't have had the same impact. And they went and got Wesley Snipes, and he looked great. He aged well, and he
what do they say? Black don't crack or something like that.
Black don't crack. But it was his character. It was iconically his character. It's like he didn't skip a beat.
So I absolutely love this scene, but I will say it definitely felt like he was being more Wesley Snipes than Blade, or like what his idea of Blade, because he didn't have his sword, like he didn't have the cool leather coat, like it was just very, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna do one kick, I got a little gray on my soul patch now, I'll just do that. And then Ryan's like,
it's been 30 years. It's been 30 years. It's been 30 years. So
just the fact that he agreed to do it, right,
is amazing.
It's like, hey, will you reprise this role? Because the rumors, and they kind of alluded to it with some jokes in the movie, is that Wesley Snipes didn't write Ryan Reynolds when they worked together originally on Blade Trinity on the third movie of the film. And I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, he's never liked me. And I was like, oh, that's funny, because we've all heard that kind of rumors. And then still the fact that even, let's say they didn't work well together back in the day, that he would be willing to go in and put back on that role for the fans, because that's really what I felt like that
this was a fan. This was a fan movie. Yeah, this was a fan favorite. They did it exclusively for the fans. It wasn't for the artistry. It wasn't for anything. It was specifically for us, and it was for us old heads. Because let's face it, my kids, they don't know anything about Blade. I mean, this was before their time, before their era.
That's a really good point, because that's the same thing my wife said when we left the theater. Growing up on the X-Men, growing up on the Fantastic Four original, not the reboot that they tried, growing up on some of those real classic movies that we left the theater going like, that was great, but in 10 years when my kids see this, are they going to have that same, are they going to walk away with that same like feeling of excitement? And my guess is no. I don't think this is going to be a timeless movie. I think it's just going to be a movie of its time, where those of us who've been on this journey for all of these decades felt like we got some respect in. And what do you think, Dante?
So no, that's specifically fun thought. Because in that same vein, 10, 20 years from now, how many people are going to sit down and watch Iron Man, Captain America, all these different movies?
My kids will. Like
War, Endgame.
Yeah. I kind of also push my kids into the classic video games. Like, oh, you want to play the new Mario? Well, we're going to go play Mario 1 and World and whatnot. So you guys kind of have that as a predecessor to.
So I think that is something you could, kind of pass on. Like, hey, you got to watch these Hugh Jackman X-Men movies. They kick ass. Hey, you enjoy those. Now you got to watch Deadpool. It's kind of the same thing of like, hey, let's watch Iron Man. Let's watch Captain America. Let's watch, these 20 movies that go really well together. You just kind of need a year to chip away at them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting. What do you think?
I own all those. I own all those
X
movies.
collection or whatever.
I lost Jay.
Oh,
there he's back.
I own all of them.
Nice.
Yeah. No, they're great movies. I think X2 especially, they all still hold up pretty well. Like the acting, the choreography, the costumes.
One of the things that was always frustrating to me as a fan, especially as it relates to some of those, it always kind of felt like they hit their stride with the second movie and then they shit the bed by the third movie. And that's also with the new class, like X-Men, like Days of Future Past slapped, and it was like such a great movie. And I loved how they brought the old characters and the new together and telling that story with Wolverine, of course. That was exciting and fun to see. And then you go into the third one and it's like, But I think the exception to that rule would be then the X-Men Wolverine, where X2 I thought was just incredible. And then you follow that up with Logan. And Logan was just a perfect kind of send-off until Deadpool ripped him, dug him up, and then used him to murder all of those people in the opening of this movie.
Are you skipping the little Japan one?
That's X2. That's the X2. The X-Men. The Wolverine second movie. Because I thought it was Origin, and then he went to Japan, and then he did Logan.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of actual X-Men, X2, X-Men: The Last Stand, like that trilogy.
Yeah. Sorry, I shifted into the just the focus on Wolverine, where I think the Wolverine trilogy got better with each one. Where the Wolverine Origin, which Ryan Reynolds first stepped into the role of Deadpool, like it was so great to see the other Deadpools kind of retcon that movie.
Yeah. That was hilarious.
Like, oh man, just cleaning up the timeline, guys. Don't worry about me. Here we go.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I had a call that came in and it kind of paused the audio, but I have the collection of all of these movies, and I have a hard time getting my kids to sit down and want to watch them with me. They're just They're just not into them. But my kids, they'll watch Captain America. They'll watch the Endgame. They'll watch Iron Man. They'll watch the new MCU stuff. Whereas for whatever reason, it's just hard for me to get them to,
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I could have sworn that opening scene in the first X-Men where it's like the bar and the grimy cage fight and he comes out and then the claws come out for the first time. Like, that was just such a cool kick-ass way to start a movie, I thought.
Yeah. Don't forget that scene was in the exact scene of the Marvel, the Wolverine, Insomniac's Wolverine. That trailer, that's how that happened. That exact, it's just, oh my god, I can't wait.
I'm so excited for the Wolverine game.
Yeah, me too. And the X-Men, the X-Men game is coming as well. So they're doing a lot of Marvel stuff,
And that's going to be something interesting because you brought up a point earlier, Jay, and I think it was right on the money. I think there was this weird problem where they were trying to launch video games alongside the movies, and it always felt, it was a cash grab. Like there's no other, kind of, it was, maybe they were viewing it as a marketing opportunity, but
every once in a while they hit.
They did.
Like weirdly, 1 out of 20 would be good.
But it usually was
more
delayed.
missed than
It was also it was like, oh, this is like the game comes out 6 months after the movie, and there's a tie-in or something like that to the story, which I thought, you need more time to really kind of flesh that game out. At like the Wolverine game, like I remember playing it, and it was a B tier game. It wasn't anything that you're like, oh, this is great. But you go and say, I wonder if they gave it more time, would this have been something that is a classic? I think the Lord of the Rings games, I always enjoyed kind of playing those, but those were also delayed. I think it kind of kicked off with GoldenEye, though, where GoldenEye came out, obviously based off the movie, but there was a big enough gap, and it was such a sensation. EA picked up the Bond licensing, and then every time there's a movie, it's like we got to tie a movie with the game every time. And I'm like, man, those things are two different kind of complete production schedules. And I think when a game, like a movie comes out and they get it all ready and it sits, and then essentially they market it and then they promote it, a video game gets finished and it's like, get it out the door, we gotta go.
So
well, and
like a whole different thing. I asked that question once. Wouldn't it be advantageous for Sony, like when Marvel has a movie coming out, or like Spider-Man movies, Into the Spider-Verse, Cross the Spider-Verse, whatever, like if you got a Spider-Man movie coming out, wouldn't it be great to have that game ready for that time frame, just so it can get an added boost of marketing and stuff like that? But
you would definitely get that added boost with marketing. But,
I guess they've learned the lesson of people trying to do that previously, and that's how we ended up with the shitty games with the movie tie-ins in the historical times. That's why we felt like that.
There's just so much coordination, because like game development, you look at the budget that Sony has, like that even leaked alongside of these, where they're talking about
300
million for the next Spider-Man game, and you're like, oh, okay. They're going to have to definitely move units on that, but you're talking about
way more than a movie.
You're talking about a ship that you're just, and then you're saying like, okay, and we got to be in coordination or communication with people in the movie, and we've seen that struggle within the MCU over the course of since Endgame. Like you think about some of these movies, and it's like they are so close to, like I think really knocking out of the park. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, for example. Like I thought that movie could have been so much better had they actually built off of what happened in WandaVision. Turns out those production companies weren't even communicating, and they're not talking about two different genres. You're in the same universe supposedly, and all of a sudden
into a large corporate beast.
And that becomes, and that's one of the things we were kind of talking about in our little members only pre-show. At the start of this, where like Microsoft, like they're really, rumors persist that they might be obviously still acquiring companies. Sega is a good option if anybody was going to put bets. But Jay, you tweeted out WB might be on the table, and I wonder if that's just the games, or if that's also like HBO Max. And I'm not gonna just call it Max. I'm sorry. I have I refuse to just like I'm like, it's Twitter X. Like I use both.
Does Warner Brothers still have a trademark on the Nemesis system?
Oh yes, they do. Actually, yes. And I can tell you this. I can tell you
great acquisition by Microsoft.
The reason being, I can tell you that for a fact, because in the game that I'm making, I was like, I love the Nemesis system. How can we do that? And it's
can we use that? Nope.
But we can tweak some things and go around. Like it's not like you can't trademark an idea.
Introducing the Segamis system.
The Segamis system, yes. So that's something where it's like, I want that kind of system in my game, or a similar system for legal purposes if this is ever in court. And here he is,
inspired by.
We right clicked and hit copy, paste, and profit. That's how video game development works.
I wish it was that simple. That code is so dense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so that's something that it would be really cool to see when it comes down to it. Like if that got released, more people could do it because it was like so good. And for those of you who are listening who are like, what are y'all talking about? The Lord of the Rings, like the Shadow of Mordor series, had the system in which that if the enemies killed you, they ranked up and got stronger, and you could see them on the map, and they taunt you and whatnot, and it just kind of added a lot
They
of
were
value.
very good at kind of adapting to how you attacked them. So if you're very like sword heavy, oh shit, now they got armor, you got to get behind them. If you're sneaking behind them, now they got armor everywhere, you got to blow them up. Like it was a very, very well done system for replayability and just kind of, you know, keeping it fresh, new.
Yeah, agreed. So back to the Deadpool stuff, the opening cinematic with digging up Logan's corpse from from the
So
movie
funny.
Logan. What did y'all think about that? Like, because it plays off of their announcement where they're like, we're not gonna mess with Logan, like Logan happened in the future and whatnot, and then it's like, nope, we're going right back there and we're digging him up. What do y'all think about that whole sequence?
Oh, that's there is no part of that movie that I can just say that was awful. I mean, everything just fits right in. Everything just hit like it was right on point. And I think I was more excited than my kids because I'm like hitting them like, look, 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 look. Like so, it was like a a kid in a candy store seeing all of this.
I love just it was a perfect way to start the movie. Just very zany, a little like kick-ass fight scene. And yeah, just like, hey, this is gonna be irreverent, a lot of little winks at the camera.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
he's messing with the mouth, like, oh yeah, you bungee smugglers, mate. Like
yeah,
that was so funny.
yeah. He went in on 20th Century Fox. That
Oh
was
yeah.
hilarious.
The
That
big
was
fox
hilarious.
in the
Yeah.
forgotten graveyard.
Yeah, you start seeing all the old weapons and stuff like that of like the dead franchises and stuff. That was just it was crazy.
So how did you guys feel about like the little going through the Logan scene and then, you know, kind of finally arriving at this one?
Oh, that was really
Um,
interesting. Go ahead, Jay.
yeah, that was explaining that was really I'm not gonna say awkward. It was just I don't know. I still don't know how to feel about that. I need to watch the movie again, but having that explained, it was a little bit of a like Logan. Logan is the what do you call it? Logan to a lot of people is kind of how the Mad Max
Mm-hmm.
movie is to them. It's like a special place. It's like a badass film, but it's like, hey, he had to die, and he
Mhm.
died, and Ryan Reynolds, oh Deadpool, I keep saying Ryan Reynolds, he's poking fun at him and just kind of explaining what happened. It kind of brought back like it was a little bit of downer to me.
Mhm.
It was a little. I just
It was so fascinating because they showed the scene in the TVA,
Yeah,
and everybody was
yeah,
reacting to it like, "Whoa, what a powerful scene!
yeah,
This is so
yeah.
beautiful." And I was like, "Yeah," because like I remember watching. I've watched Logan several times, and it's like, wow, they really did send that character off in a good way, and that brings then like, are they reviving that character? That version of Wolverine, and the answer ended up being no. But it
Yeah.
was wild that he was like, Ryan Reynolds, like, we're gonna just dig him up, and he's gonna be fine, and we're gonna, yeah, here we go.
We'll get him back.
We'll
Yeah,
get him back, and it's like, oh no, and then he uses his corpse to like murder all those.
beat up all the
Yeah,
guys.
but
Yeah,
it, like in a brutal way, is like he's like, and then the line about like there's 255 bones in the human body, 256 if I'm watching Gossip Girl, which is
yeah,
which is a great reference to like him being married to Blake Lively, who then shows
Yeah.
up in this movie, and the little subtle marks there because they kind of said Lady Pool, who just had a baby, but you can't tell, and that's true. She
Yeah.
just had a baby and looking really good in that suit. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun when they brought in the Deadpool core towards later on in the movie. But then he goes through and jumps in different universes, and I think I what was y'all's favorite alternate version of Wolverine? I have to say the thing of comic accurate height Wolverine that they opened up
The
with.
short one.
Like 5'3".
What are you doing here, bub?
Yeah.
And it
Nope.
was like,
We were laughing. Then he had the handsome Wolverine. He was like, "Oh my God, yes, it's the one with the jeans on." I was laughing. I mean, I couldn't. It was. I'm telling you, man, that movie. It was so funny, but it was just there was no part of it that wasn't entertaining.
Yeah.
I think obviously they chose the right one because it all worked out in the grand scheme of things. That's the one that needed to work out.
I think they did a really good job with, kind of respecting Logan, showing that little scene in the TVA, like, hey, this
Yeah.
character is sick, he's awesome. By the way, there's 100 other Wolverines. They're not special. By the way, the one we're getting stuck with sucks. Like,
Yeah.
I thought Hugh Jackman did such a good job of being Wolverine, but not the one we know. Like
Not
a
the
much
one, yeah.
more kind of feral, Eeyore,
Unsure.
pouty, not confident. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit, okay, that's Wolverine, but he kind of sucks. All right.
He blamed himself for not being there.
Yeah.
When the X-Men got killed. Yeah.
Well, and then he reveals later, like after that, he just went on a murder spree, killing good guys, bad guys,
and just
ruining like the reputation of the X-Men. So everybody just hated the X-Men and hated him.
Yeah.
And all that and the reveal later is awesome. I think just that opening scene without that information, he did such a good job of just being kind of like, get away from him. And then they had their little fight, and it was awesome watching him go down on all fours to charge Deadpool. Like, God, that first fight was great.
What do y'all think about? Oh, go ahead, Jake.
I was gonna say that opening scene when he fought Sabretooth, because when Sabretooth came screaming, I was telling my sons, I was like, it's Sabretooth! It's Sabretooth! And, it was just everybody's just going crazy. I mean, literally, the movie theater was packed. Everyone was saying this exact same. Our reaction was the exact same. It was like just in unison. We were just all freaking out.
Then, like 2 seconds later, oh shit, it was Sabretooth.
Yeah. Exactly.
Behold your Queen Furiosa.
And but what about when Wolverine finally put on his costume, when he put on his
hood?
Oh my god.
The hood? That was so sick.
Dude,
I did not expect that at all.
They really got us in the feels. Like this whole movie, that's why I say this was a fan movie. They didn't have to do this movie, but this movie was exclusively for the fans. Anything that you would have wanted in the movie, they gave you. And that's why I say it was worth my money. And when the 4K Blu-ray come out, I'm gonna buy it. And
absolutely.
And
just for theater alone.
Exactly. I like that it's a rated R movie, because when it came to Wolverine, he can be violent and deadly, and he's
that's his character, right?
And you don't get to see that so much. You got to see it in Logan, and then you get to see it here, especially with him and Ryan Reynolds duking it out, because they both can't die. So it's just like constant just destruction and just visceral combat that eventually it's just a matter of like, well, we're tired. I guess we're going to stop trying to fight each other, because we're just wasting time at this point. But you're right, bringing out that cowl and then his line about it, because I thought like him not taking off the suit, especially after 20 years of not putting on the suit, and them kind of making jokes about it, like, what do you want, yellow spandex, like what's going on, and then to actually have that comic accurate suit that really brought the character, brought me more into the movie. But then pulling on the cowl, and he's like, whoa, like, even like, hey, you've had that? And he's like, yeah, I wear that when it's time for the killing to begin. And it's like, oh yeah, so he puts that on when it's time to really tear stuff up. And I thought that was a real nice touch to that whole scene. It looked awesome on film.
And they did it well as far as like weaving it into the movie. Like, he wears the suit to remind himself of his failure from his universe, right?
Yeah, he doesn't take it off, and that was interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't just a, hey, fans want you to wear the suit, right?
Yeah. And another thing is the way the universe works is there's not this kind of like in Spider-Man, there's the cheesy type, oh, you're jumping across these different worlds, and it felt genuine. It felt they did it properly.
It's pretty contained well. Like, it is.
Yeah.
a lot of multiverse shit going on, but it's mostly in like the Void and then back in Deadpool's world,
What
right?
do y'all
Yeah.
think about him making fun of the multiverse, like telling Wolverine he's coming in at a real low point, and then also that it's just
Yeah.
been
Marvel
miss after
Jesus.
miss after miss.
Yeah.
And I like that's the
Yeah.
thing I've always said is that like you can tell a multiversal story, but when you lean so heavily on it, like the MCU has felt like they've done the post Endgame, it ends up feeling like there really aren't any stakes, and we're seeing that with Robert Downey Jr. going to step back into the MCU as Doctor Doom, not as an Iron Man version of Doctor Doom, but like apparently as Ivor. I believe that's the name.
That would have been. I thought they were doing like Tony Stark turned into Doom. That'd be cool.
Who knows? Like they could probably
Yeah.
make some kind of allusion to it, but being that you have this concept where there are 1,000 Wolverines, like what is the loss of one Wolverine, and them making that kind of a key plot in the degradation of a timeline, which leads into so many competing concepts. What was the term? It was in like apex being or some kind of thing. They've also had like various different timelines. Like this is a nexus. That's the word I was using for. They also have nexus beings, which is somewhat different from what they were calling Logan in this movie, and that your timeline is
Oh, he's
all
like
hinged.
the anchor. Right?
Anchor being.
He's the anchor being.
They have no, the Nexus beings. They have Nexus time. They like have all these different concepts they've introduced, and it's just like, okay. I liked how that wasn't the key driving fact of this entire movie. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
I did not need to watch all of what's come before in this, especially with Loki, which I thought Loki, the Guardians of the Galaxy. There have been some shining stars, some really good movies delivered over the course of the last couple of years, but everything that's really just driven into the multiverse has just gotten, I think, weaker and weaker because of it. Do you think this is a turning point for the MCU going forward? Because I've actually heard, and I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that within the Marvel umbrella at Disney, they've removed quietly over the last several months all these activist style producers, which whether it's true or not, it'll be I don't think you'll feel that immediately within the next couple of movies, but it will be interesting to see how that compares to what I've heard with Lucasfilm, where they're like, no, Lucasfilm is just doing their thing and pissing off the fans. What do y'all think?
Oh, you go, Jeff.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I'll be honest. A good movie is a good movie.
Yeah.
No matter, it's just like we have this whole discussion on Twitter about games. I don't care what the producer's political standpoint is. I don't care what this developer thinks about X, Y, and Z. Deliver me. I'm a gamer. Deliver me a great fucking game. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Just like a movie. Deliver me a great like
Exactly.
this movie we're talking about now, right? Who cares what the producer or the whoever what they think in their political spectrum or their worldviews? Who cares? The only thing that matters is that IP, and that IP is delivered for the fans. And as long as they do that, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And I think in I guess it's less so or more so in gaming, only because we're in that space too. That I feel like there's a bunch of people that use that to just shit on games. Some games are just great. You saw it doing the what was the
Assassin's Creed, right?
The Assassin's Creed, the Harry Potter game, Hogwarts, right?
Yeah.
We saw that, but just because you have to watch just people that loves controversy. They had some people just have no intention to buy a game or to support a movie. They just like the they just like the attention, the grifting and everything else, right? Listen, I'm a console warrior. I don't deny it at all, right? But I care about the games. I buy my games and I play my games. I don't get into the politics of the games at all. Not at all. I could care less. You deliver me a great game, I don't care who made it. I'm going to be there. Yeah. And I just think we need to get to that point, because you don't want to turn your hobby or your media of choice like movies. you don't want that to go south where you don't want to watch movies anymore or you don't want to play games anymore because people bring stuff like politics into it, which is very divisive, right?
Yeah, and it's
Like
not that these things can't tell good political style stories, but it has felt for me as somebody who's just
Mhm.
a parent and a gamer that it's like, okay, I'm kind of getting hit over the head with this message stuff. And I'm like I don't care if you have that, if you want to make that, but it felt like every little thing has to bring in, some form of these things. And
Mhm.
I'm like, all right, well, and then for me, what was kind of the real turning point moment was this year. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention, Gamergate 2 has been kicking off, and it's lighting the fires under certain people, and people are taking advantage, and there's also people who are out there on both sides that are just like, what's going on? And I think ultimately when I saw that there was a lot of the media that was reporting on it was
Mhm.
ignoring one part of the story, like verbatim, that it was like,
Mhm.
oh, there's definitely like a problem
Was
within
this
this.
over the ass fighting game,
No, that came later.
Stellar
And
Blade?
that's the thing. Like I was like, there's like I wasn't gonna buy Stellar
People are
Blade.
just mad that it sold well. Like,
Well, and then they
Yeah.
were
that there's
using
still
their
12-year-old boys with an
oh no. Well,
allowance.
and that's the thing. It's
Like,
like
Yeah.
make a game that people want to play and they're gonna show
yeah.
up for it. And if you boycott it, like Jay was saying, like a boycott of a good game is the best marketing that anybody could hope
Oh
for.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Like we're
Absolutely.
talking free press
Yep.
across all platforms, and what it
Yeah.
does is it puts it out into the mainstream outside of our little bubble, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, why is everybody talking about Hogwarts? Well, I'm gonna go check
Yeah.
it out where maybe I don't
Oh no,
originally.
Quidditch. This game sucks.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that was like that's absolutely very true. But what we're seeing though is that when movies then or games don't deliver that experience that people
Mhm.
want, they use those things as just points to try to beat up on the movie or the game, whether it's true or not. It ends up just
Yeah.
becoming more fuel for the fodder, more fuel for the culture war out there online.
Yeah, I've seen this stuff with some of these Marvel movies that didn't do quite well, and people start saying, "Well, you go woke, you go broke," and it's like I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it just wasn't a good movie to bring enough people in. It's simple.
Yeah,
It just wasn't. It's okay to say the movie wasn't good. It's okay,
they
right?
I
definitely
think
had
that
some beef with the
Sometime you win
Marvels. Yeah,
some, sometime you lose some. Listen, look at Wonder Woman, right?
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
that was a woman character. Everybody will still tell you that's one of the best done movies out there. Like
Yeah.
that was a great. Now, obviously, the Wonder Woman 1984 that sucked because it was a horrible movie.
It was.
Like
It
it
was
wasn't
so
because
bad.
well,
of
it
the.
it all goes back to the writing, right?
Yes.
And that's
Yes,
why I think
yes,
the MCU as a whole will probably not learn from Deadpool. I think more Deadpool movies will be good because if you look at all three, they just get the driving force of the movie out there right away. Deadpool 1, he's trying to find love. Does he find love? I'm going to watch this for an hour. Deadpool 2, he's trying to protect his family. Does he
yeah,
protect his family? I'm going to watch this for an hour.
yeah,
Deadpool 3, he's trying to be important. He's trying to matter. I'm going to
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
they just get that simple theme right in your face. And like,
yeah,
that is the whole reason that the movie's kicking off, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Whereas the MCU as a whole, kind of back to the shows, WandaVision, Loki, it's not an enhancement if you've seen those and the movie.
yeah.
It's almost like you're missing something if you just see the movie.
What's
It's
really
kind of.
yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say it's because my wife. I got her. I mean, she's watched every single Marvel thing, so she's deeply embedded into it. We
She knows the
caught her.
lore.
Yeah, she knows the lore. She's caught up, or whatever. And she asked the question, "Well, why do the mainstream movies do well and they're really good, but it seemed like the others are just side projects." They're just
Ah,
like, oh, they just threw it together just because they didn't.
a part of
Yeah,
that's
it's
definitely the international market, I think.
yeah,
Those big budget mainstream movies, maybe not 100% of people in the US love it, but if 60% of people globally love it, that's a pretty damn good return on box office.
yeah,
I think when you brought up obviously like Loki and a handful of the like the Disney Plus shows, I feel like it's been hit or miss, right? Like I actually enjoyed Loki season 1 and season 2. I enjoyed, like I talked about, Guardians of the Galaxy, the third movie, And what I see has been the problem with the writing is that I felt like with the Marvels, like you can clearly see there was another movie they were trying to make because
Mhm.
and then you go and you find out that that actually was true. They had to cut this movie up so many which ways from Sunday, and at the
It
end of
was
it didn't really like resonate. Like it left more like, all right, that was something I'm not going to ever watch again because there's no need to. But
there's kind of a schlocky joke floating around when that movie came out. Oh, let's just make a big budget movie about three women who can't work together. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
let's
Like,
go with
you think about it, that kind of is the movie. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah, that's a really good summary. On that note, though, like I
Yeah.
thought the standout was Kamala Khan. Her
Mhm.
character, she was the
Mhm.
only redeeming.
She was in Multiverse or the Doctor Strange one, right?
I don't. She might have shown up at
I think
the
she
end or
should
something.
cameo.
She was like the teleporting girl. I
No,
never
no,
saw
no.
Marvel,
She's
so
got
I
like
wasn't
the
sure.
ability. Well, in the comics, she has the
Oh,
ability to stretch, so she's kind of got like Mr. Fantastic powers. But in this,
Oh,
she
she was
oh
in
yeah,
the
generates
show.
she
fantastic.
generates
Yeah.
light that creates platforms and can do different
Mhm.
things with that. So it's in a way like she can extend her hand. It's interesting. She
She
had
had
a she
her
had
own
a
show, right?
I thought the Disney
Yeah.
Plus show with her was really
Yeah.
fun, and then like I said with that, and then also with Loki. And the difference is like if you look at kind of like the purpose of why something exists. When I sit down to make content for YouTube, I'm like, who is this for? Like, and I try to make something for the current audience that I have. I'll either try to make something for inviting new people into the content I make, or I'll make something for myself. And so I kind of have like that kind of direction. Loki, I felt, was a character driven story. It was a story that can exist on its own, and it wasn't up, and we were watching it always kind of wondering how is it going to further the MCU in some way, because that's the opposite of what that's what we've seen elsewhere, where it's this isn't a movie really about these characters, it's a movie so we can get the plot of this universe moving from A to B, because then
Mhm.
this movie's got to pick up and we need to have that kind of story communicated. And so same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy, it was focusing in on those characters. And I think that there can always be a little knock on that, it's like here's something that's moving the universe into this bigger plot that we're moving on, but that's
Thanos
not
is
the
coming.
focus of it. Right, Thanos is
He's
coming. That's
coming.
what the first three phases I felt like. Yeah, like Thanos was all this looming threat, and they were little teases, but the movies were more self-contained, and thus
Mhm.
they could focus in on characters and character growth and telling character-focused stories, which is what Deadpool and Wolverine did.
Mhm.
Like they really told stories about these characters, and like you said, you're in. You're like, let's see. He's trying to find meaning. Will he at the end of this movie find the meaning that he seeks? And it was a great ride. The entire runtime. In fact, I think that's one critique I've seen people kind of make, that it was a little bit too long, and I was like, I
So
enjoyed the
that
length.
was my only critique, but the little nod by Deadpool in the movie
Don't
got me
worry,
through it.
don't worry,
He's
folks.
like, "Hey
We're
guys,
we're getting ready to
20
wrap up.
minutes left."
Yeah,
I was like,
it was
"Okay,
it was a good
sweet."
note.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking this movie's kind of long.
Yeah.
Damn.
What else
So
stood
that was
out to
nice.
you guys about the movie? Because like we only kind of touched on the Blade cameo, but this movie is riddled with different cameos. You've got, I think, just the high notes, Gambit. You have the Human Torch.
Gambit.
Jay, what did you think about the human? Because we
Yeah.
didn't let you know about Chris Evans returning to reprise that role.
Yeah.
What did you think about that whole scene with Chris
Yeah.
Evans?
I thought it was hilarious.
Do you think Captain America? You thought he was Pete Rogers?
Well, I did, and because they only showed like his wrists, and you kind
Yeah.
of saw the outfit, and that's what my sons were. It was like Captain America, and
Nope.
and then I was like, nah, that can't be. And then yeah, it was hilarious, and the way he got destroyed because
Mhm.
of freaking Deadpool, and that was hilarious. The whole theater was laughing at that. Um, I just I don't know. I looked at it like this. From this point on, they have a lot to work with. Even they have a lot to work with. Will they take that route? I don't know. Is this a one and done movie and it's just over and that's it? Could be. But there's a lot to work here where people would like to see it. I would like to see it. I would like them to bring back X-Men and have this particular Wolverine in it. I would like, Elektra. Gambit, right? There's something there. Granted, my peeps are from Louisiana, so it's like, the dialogue was a little bit cheesy, but there's something to work with there.
So here's a fun question.
I don't know.
feel
I
like
don't know. There's a question mark there.
there's almost so much to work with. I could really see like a show format working very well for any future Deadpool projects.
Yeah.
Versus just more movies, you know what I mean? But I guess I don't know. It'd be
Yeah.
a way for him to kind of
If they had a
interact with
TV
other
show,
characters, right?
What are you gonna say, Joe?
that would be the problem with that, though. You have to think about it. The problem with that is, does that take away, because these
From
guys are
other
all thinking about
projects.
money, right?
Yeah.
It's all about money. They're gonna say these, I guess, S-class characters, we only want to put in big blockbuster movies to make as much money as possible. If we put them in smaller projects, it's not worth it for us. That's how I'm looking at Marvel, how they look at things. For example, they'll give you the Avengers, right? They know it's going to be big blockbuster. They'll give you Captain America, Iron Man. They'll give you the big S tier, but everybody else, they're going to be, sub. Not saying it's bad. It's just they're not going to give the time. They're not going to give the money. They're not going to give you any of that stuff. And so I'm. It's kind of like, if you're not going to do it right, then don't do it at all.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about a TV
And
series.
I feel like that's
I think it could be fun for the character. I would more or less prefer, if they were going to do something like that, that would be animated. And I enjoy like animation.
I think that would work very well.
I think it actually makes it
show.
Because especially when it, like, I think about if like, I'm not, Hugh Jackman, but if I was, and it's like, oh, you want me to now I'm committing a lot of my schedule to going and filming and,
I got to be in great shape for every movie.
As opposed to like, if you were animated and you want
to gotta say
whether
stuff.
he needed to do it or you had somebody else come in to voice Wolverine. They got the X-Men 97, for example. I think that actually animation is the bridge, and that's what we're seeing in a way with the DCU. So for those of you who haven't been following, I'm a huge Superman fan. In fact, I grew up on DC, specifically DC animation. We're talking Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, getting into the Justice League. So I am all on board for what James Gunn is producing, which is set to kick off in the movie theaters next summer. So this time next year, maybe we're going to be podcasting about Superman, the new Superman. But what it means for the DCU, because where we've had complaints about the MCU and how Disney has kind of run that ship, he is really focusing in on finishing scripts and having a real vision and telling a real story. And we've seen that with his movies. I think James Gunn has been an exceptional director for all of the movies that I've ever seen him produce, from the Justice League, from the Suicide Squad to the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, he did Suicide Squad?
The second one, not the first one, because the DCEU was just a huge mess. And Jay brought it up earlier. Wonder Woman. Awesome movie. Wonder Woman 1984. What the fuck is going on with that movie? And it was so frustrating because it didn't even follow its own rules. You could wish for anything. There's a negative consequence. But in her wish, it turned somebody else into her love interest, as opposed to like that. There was a person who existed who completely metaphysically changed. And then, and then he goes back to that person again. And that was the only, like everything else was true. So, and then essentially the thing that frustrated me about 1984 primarily was you have an entire set of movies that take place after this, and nobody makes a mention of this world wishing event where everybody's wishes came true and there was all this chaos that erupted, etc. And I was like, it just was, it pulled me out of that universe like nothing else. And so for the DCU with James Gunn at the head of it, I'm excited. It actually kicks off technically this year on Max, on HBO Max, with Creature Commandos. So what they're doing, all in-house, this is video games, animation, and movies that the one thing he said that I thought was really true is that back, especially with WB, whether Microsoft buys WB or can buy them or not, who knows with the new with all the new like regulation that's being put in place. With all of that, like, will we see? You know, he said that DC was just like giving out their IP to anybody who had a smile on their face or something, like just throwing it out there. And so I'm excited to see what that ship with a like a unified vision and somebody at the head of it who knows the source material can then produce. And so I'm excited to see that, and it's going to be fun to see the contrast between the new DCU and the current MCU, and seeing if that also, that competition kind of in a way like says, oh, okay, we need to make sure we step up our game, because like maybe because MCU was just wiping the floor with any DC properties for so long. Do we see that, return?
Ever saw Doom Patrol? Which service was that on?
I do not know.
Wasn't that a pretty good DC property in like the last 5 years? Brendan Fraser was on it. Am I being crazy right now?
Yeah,
Let me Google it.
Doom Patrol.
Wasn't
2019.
That was what channel?
Uh-oh, we're losing Jay.
Or was it just release of the movie?
The Doom Patrol. What was that about, though?
It was some DC property, American superhero television, based on a superhero team of the same name. So Jane, Rita Farr, Vic Stone, Larry Trainer, Cliff Steele, Niles Calder. Do any of these names ring a bell for heroes?
No, like it literally.
Yeah, so it was a very like weird
B-list.
one-off thing, but it got 4 seasons. Timothy Dalton's in it, Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser. That, I guess that was before his big return to.
It was like right before his Renaissance.
And Renaissance.
Alan Tudyk is in it. He's awesome.
It looks like it's on Max. It looks like it's on Max.
Yeah, so if you're a DC guy,
Okay.
definitely. I'm curious who did that, because I don't think that was Gunn.
Jeremy Carver is the creator that it's got listed. So I had to Google it, because it's like I don't even remember hearing about that. And yeah, I guess that's a part of the. I'm betting that's shut down though. Like when we talk about.
Oh,
like, yeah, it's like, all right, we released.
I think that was a series though. That was like, okay, DC's not dead. Yeah. We messed up with Justice League. We messed up with Aquaman, but there is still like good storytelling to be had with this universe.
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what characters go, because that's also tying this into the Deadpool movie, the Calverine. The
Calverine.
Henry Cavill stepping into kind of a younger Wolverine. I thought was
not a chance. He's not.
You don't think
he's
just
a little cameo?
As a little cameo, nothing.
Yeah.
No, like I would
He's
love that.
He's too big, dude. He's way too big.
I heard
like
that
they would actually
his
have
Warhammer
to like
project isn't moving forward. So like, big or not, like if you have time on your hands, you got time on your hands.
What, shareholders coming and shut that down? He wasn't doing enough.
Something was going on. I don't know. Like that's one of the problems is you get these executives that come in and they're like, oh, that we got to hit, we got to do this, and it's like, no, I've got creative control, and who knows?
Just
that
give Henry the reins and trust him. He's a large dork. He'll do it right.
But yeah, so Henry Cavill, obviously, like kind of just bringing this all full circle, cameo. I would love to see him as a Wolverine in another variant, like especially as Secret Wars. I think that would be cool to see that brought in. And if they decide to reboot and start telling X-Men stories in the next, saga that they want to tell within the MCU, like that would be a really, really good character. I think he, as an actor, could really pull off that character. I thought he did for what little screen time he had. But then that also ties back into our DCU conversation, where Henry Cavill is not going to be reprising his role as Superman. They're going with another actor. In this case, what do you think about all of that? What do you think about they did with Henry Cavill?
I mean, I think he's just a great actor. He could honestly play any role they give him. Well, maybe not any role, but like Wolverine, again, like physically, I see him as Juggernaut, like he'd be a badass Juggernaut with the helmet, or like Beast even, or just another like just large frame character. Like he's too big to be Wolverine. I don't buy it. I'm like, that's
Well,
not.
that was some of the concern originally with Hugh Jackman, is that he's
Yeah,
just kind of too
they
big,
thought
too
he was
tall.
too big, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, he's big, but that's like a good, like athletic, feral looking size. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean exactly.
Cavill's got like that bear, fucking just raw power.
Do you have any other thoughts about the Deadpool and Wolverine movie? Was there anything else that stood out to you, or things that you wanted to
If
talk about?
anyone's listening and hasn't seen it yet, go see it. It's really fun, especially in theaters. It's rare we get a good movie worth seeing in theaters these days.
Yeah, totally worth the price of a sitter in my mind. Like, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed my experience. I was talking to my dad because he hasn't seen it yet. I was like, if you go to the movie, text me. I will go.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
see
yeah.
it. Like, I want to go see that movie another time, because you're right. Like, I think you were in the pre-show talking about, like, you just kind of want to watch it again, and not
Just to
focus in
watch the
on
background.
background
Yeah.
characters and see all the subtle things that they
We
put into
talked
the
about
movie.
it a little bit last week, but just the scene at Cassandra's base where everyone was kind of like standing around, half those characters were from the X2, X3 movies.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm like, now I'm getting inundated with phone calls and text messages.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, you're good.
And more. So what we'll probably do, guys, is that's kind of the hour. So we usually want to keep these around that. I do want to talk to you, Dante, about the Destiny 2 news and drama. So
is that game still alive?
Yeah, well, maybe. Like
Warframe, dude.
this week,
TennoCon was lit.
Wild was out of town, dude. It was like they fired so many, like let go so many people.
Yeah.
Sony has kind of done a lot of that stuff, and at the end of the day, I'm like, man. So let's because I was like, if there was time, I was like, yeah, let's talk about that here. But let's save that for next week at a minimum, because
also I'm very not familiar. I tuned out of Destiny a while ago.
I'm now more curious as to your thoughts about, like, when you go get caught up on the news, that we can have a real like discussion, because like, as somebody who did not play the final shape, because I had such a bad taste from Lightfall in my mouth.
I didn't do Lightfall, I don't think.
Well, good. Like, it was just bad. It was just not. I was like, and people were trying to defend it, and as time went on, it's like, yeah, this is a
grindy
good
flavor of the day experience. Weapons didn't have any real significance or weight or uniqueness to them. They got insane with the in-game store. They just did everything they could to make me put the game down.
Yeah, and so apparently, just to give you some insight, it seems like it's leaked that they haven't even started working on a Destiny 3.
I doubt there will be one.
They're probably, like, you're probably right, based off of and they let go of like Luke Smith and a lot of the head people who were in charge, and then
it's
apparently
almost back to the MCU issue of just poor communication. They don't have a plan.
They've been trying all these other things, and apparently those aren't working. So it's just been absolutely wild. We got Jay back. We're just wrapping up, Jay. I was telling Dante that I was like, one of the things we're going to talk about in our next show is I want to talk about what's been going on over at Bungie. And so, Jay, if you're available again next week, man, you're open invite, because there's just so much. And Dante's a former Destiny player, and so it's like, yeah, he's gonna go get caught up on that news. But I'm getting like inundated with text
See what they've done to my boy.
What's happening over here? So I got work stuff that's calling me out. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Jay, where can people find you, sir?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at JDubCity16, man. I'm always trying to keep you guys laughing with all the GIFs and the memes.
Dante.
Dante's Comedy on all socials, dantescomedy.com. If you can't spell that, that's a me problem, isn't it?
I got their links in the description of this podcast, guys, so be sure to go check them out. Follow them. You're already here in the right spot if you like my takes and just shenanigans, I guess is the best kind of way to say it. Otherwise, you can just check out Junior Prime for all my video game coverage and so much more. Thank you guys so much for listening. That's going to be it for the show. We'll see you here same time next week. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
Boom. Finger guns.
Peace. Take care.
Finger guns.
And Jay visually some guns there.
There you go. Got some guns.
Imagination. All right.